Alright, we're going to do a marshland as I discussed. So I'm taking, just wetting the paper. This is a 1-inch wide Ron Ranson Hake brush. And so I'm wetting the entire paper. I can tell the paper is glistening. So I'm going to work on the sky first, and probably going to have a sky that horizon that's somewhere along here. But I'm probably going to go a little bit darker, maybe create kind of maybe a little bit of a storm scene coming in, some clouds. So I do know that my horizon's going to be here, so I'm going to let this just kind of drift down, the paint drift down. And you can see it's very, very wet. Somewhere along here is where that will be. But I'm not going to really worry about that. I'm just going to let this go all the way down because I do want to have some of that color, you know, in the water down here. So I'm just putting a horizontal pattern here. I'm going to leave a little bit of light maybe down through here in this area here. I'm going to clean my brush water, and I've got a tea towel here that I'm dabbing it in. I'm going to try to pick up a little bit of raw sienna. It's a little bit green now, but I'm going to kind of clean up and pick up maybe where there's just a little bit of light, and then bring some of that down into here, into where the water might would be. Just to kind of pick up that light there. And this will blend in a little bit here. And now I'm going to go darker, using picking up some paint. I like what's happening here, where it's kind of blending in with that sky. As you would know, that the sky tends to get lighter as it meets the horizon, to create some of that depth there. So my horizon is going to be somewhere along in here. And I'm going to go a little bit darker with a little more Payne's gray, a little more intense with the blue, with the ultramarine, just to get a little bit darker, even more so. So there's more paint now. Again, we know watercolor always is going to dry lighter. And as I'm building in this, I like sometimes leaving a few white spots like that. It sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. So don't try to create that. Just let the brush do this as you can. So now I'm going a little bit even darker. I'm picking up some more Payne's gray to kind of get that blue just a little bit darker in there. Maybe it's, I'm not saying it's a rain cloud, but it could be something trying to build in there. So now I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to lift a few clouds and try to blend some of this. So I'm cleaning my brush, dabbing it off into the tea towel here. So it's kind of so I can pick up some of the clouds. So I'm using the edges of this to create some clouds here. Now I got to clean it some more because it's got paint on it as it's picking up, and just really trying to soften and blend some of this. You know, I'm not really drawing the clouds. I'm thinking about, okay, where would be here? Maybe they want to build up into there. Line there. Horizon's going to be somewhere in here. Again, this is some of the water. I feel like I need a little bit darker down into this area, so I'm going to add some of that Payne's gray that I had going on. I'm about to run out of Payne's gray. I may have to put some more in here. I'm trying to think about keeping this horizontal, if at all possible. So I'm going to take and do a quick dry here. Got a little bit of need to soften this up and blend this a little bit in there. It's not that critical, but again, you can kind of see the sky building up. So I'm going to take a hair dryer and dry this off a little bit here, just to kind of use the same Hake brush and mix up a green. You know, a lot of times you can use that green can be done with Payne's gray and raw sienna, or it can be done with a little bit of the. I may need to grab some more. Paint. I'm going to kind of go with what I've got here. So I'm going to use a little bit of umber, or dark umber here, and a little bit of blue. And try to get me a darker, kind of a grayish green. Let me pick up so I can look at the edge of my tape here. And let's go about, looks like it's about 6 inches up here. Probably should have told you the size of the paper. The paper started with 11 inches by 15, but I taped it off, so it's closer to probably 10 or so by maybe 13 or don't know. So there's going to be that tree line. So I'm just going to put it there to help establish it. I can go here again about 8, so I don't try to get this somewhat horizontal. And then over here on the end here again. So now I'm kind of close to where I want that tree line to be. But this is the horizon, if you will, in the background. So I'm using the tips of this brush here, kind of dragging it along. And then this is where it goes back into the back. Now, I'm going to just dabble up some trees here. And I'll come back and rework some of this in a minute. My paint is kind of not as liquidy as I want it to be, but I'm just creating some tree lines. Now, if you want to use a different brush, you can. Again, these vary. They vary in height, and we can always come back. So I'm trying to set those far back, as you can see, and it's beginning to kind of do that. I need to get a little bit wetter with my paint here. I'm going to pick up some Payne's Gray that I kind of had. That'll help me get a little bit darker in the back there. Again, these are far back tree line, wooded tree line. Maybe that goes through, maybe there's a path, or not a path, or maybe you can go around these trees and maybe it continues. So just dabbing those in at the moment. Now, let's begin to build up. Okay, so this is marshland, so I'm going to get a little bit greener here and change it. I'm going to get it's a little bit greener. So where is this going? I want to leave some of that blue. So this is, again, some kind of marshy land here. Maybe it feeds into that a little bit. Now I'm trying to keep this thin here because this edge of the water that's in this marshland is going to be somewhat kind of thin there to get that perspective depth here. I think you can see in the sky where you can see it's tended to be further back here. And then I can pick up a little bit of that green to vary this, to vary the color in the background. So maybe some of those trees are a little bit closer, maybe some a little bit taller. And again, I keep just building this up here. So maybe there's more of that marsh in here. Kind of muddy marsh there. And same thing here. Maybe it's filled in. So I'm not really going by any image or scene. You certainly could look up on Google and try to find you some idea of what this might look like. But there's that marsh line. Again, we'll put one really further back there. So I'm trying to build up that perspective line there where that's building up and coming closer to me now. So my greens are going to get a little bit brighter here. So I'm taking my lemon yellow and mixing it up with kind of the paints that I had before. I mean, you can see what's going on here. There's a little more green. Obviously, I can put a little bit of the blue in there, ultramarine blue and that green. As I mentioned earlier, ultramarine and raw sienna makes a nice green as well. You can see that. It's a little bit darker than I had. So I'm a little bit too blue there. So I can add a little bit of that into it, add a little bit of lemon yellow, and grab that and now kind of build up. So I'm still kind of just building up here. So as it gets closer to me, these are going to be for closer or larger, this marshland here. So let's say that water goes out that way. Maybe this one doesn't. Maybe this one builds up. So I'm just kind of alternating this bank here as I build through here. And now this is a big area right here that's opened up. And I kind of wish that was a little thinner. I kind of closed off the marsh there. Probably should have left a way to travel through there. So let's leave that at the moment here. Again, I'm building that up. And then that's probably going to be it. We're going to let this be the water here. You can see the perspective. As this gets narrower, it gets a little bit wider, a little bit wider. And then we will have, to kind of help compositionally wise, we'll have a mud bank here maybe somewhere. And I'll come back to that. And I'm going to just kind of create, I'm using the edge of the brush here to create maybe some reeds. So, would I see the reeds here? Probably not. Would I see them here? Yeah. So I'm just using the edge of my brush It's a little bit still wet, but I'm picking up some of that. And I'm going to come back with a different brush in a couple of minutes. I'm going to pull this one out a little bit further here. Now what's going to do next is I'm going to change brushes here, and I'm going to pick up well, before I do that, I want to get a little darker back here. I just picked up some alizarin crimson here. That's going to help a little bit of gray. You can see that it's even kind of got a little reddish color, but it's kind of nice to get a little bit of variance in our colors, because right now everything is kind of just dull and green. All the same green, I guess, not really dull, but it's kind of the same green here. Now I'm picking up a little bit of more lemon yellow, trying to get a little bit greener in some areas, just to change the variation of the painting. My paint's really cold. I have a studio in my garage, and it's a little bit cold, and it's kind of picking up. There I go. So now I'm picking up some of that greenish color a little bit more as it gets closer to me here. Getting a little bit more there. Just dabbing some, just trying to change a few things. Maybe we got a little more grass coming up in through here. Now, there will be some reflections coming in. So, but before I do that, I want to establish kind of a bank line here. So I'm going to use a kind of a rigger brush. It's kind of a fine liner, and I'm picking up some Payne's gray, maybe a little bit of the alizarin crimson, maybe a little bit of the blue. Just trying to get a dark value here, and you can see now as I'm creating that mud bank there, and that's going to help establish and give this some depth here. Then I can drag this out where maybe it's muddy here. It's not all perfect, hasn't been manicured. Somebody's not out there with some kind of a tool to manicure this. This is wildly grown here, and it's why it's still wet. I'm picking up and using the edge of this brush to do some of this. Same thing over here. We'll go on this side here, and we'll extend it out and put a little bit of mud out through here. And even further back in here, we'll do the same thing. So there's that mud bank, and then where I may have made a mistake there, just kind of blend it in. It'll soften up. Again, primarily this is Payne's gray, so a little bit of more Payne's gray in here to kind of put these trees further back. Just maybe a little mistake there, so just blend that in. Again, try to keep these lines, if you can, horizontal. There's the edge of that bank there. Again, I'll come over here, and there's the edge of this bank over in here, in this area here. So you start to see now where maybe some of this is, kind of bleeding out and budding out. Not budding out, I guess. It's just the mud. So I'm just trying to establish some contrast here, where maybe that goes. And again, as I told you, you probably won't see reeds back in there. So I'm just varying some of this as it gets back through there. And it got a little bit more defined here, so maybe this mud bank comes out. So now I'm getting closer. Same thing here. This is kind of a mud bank. Perhaps occasionally there's just little bits of grass growing in maybe some of these areas. Just kind of happen. My paper is still kind of wet, so I'm going to draw some grass up through here. I'm just picking it, using the brush at this moment. As you can see here, I'm doing it, just pulling it up. A little bit too dark there. I'll blend that in a little bit. I'm going to go with a little bit greener here now, because I feel like I need some more green in this area. And then this grass. And the grass, it's wild grown. And so you can start to see now how this is picking up and beginning to kind of take shape and kind of get into the perspective and getting that depth. Now what we don't have is any kind of reflection. So here, I'm gonna put in a little reflections in here. So this is pretty wet here, pretty loose here. Again, I'm not trying to draw it exactly. Same thing here, it's breaking up. It got a little bit of variance here. I do like what you're seeing with the skylight coming through there. The sky's blending through here. So then this is a little bit of the bank here. Same thing in here where some of this grass is coming down. Again, we're not trying to be exact here. So I think we're getting really, really close to being done with this painting. You know, again, this is fast. I do feel like I need to get a little bit darker right in some of this bank area here. You know, maybe this, so this is pretty much just straight Payne's gray. And there's some of that mud bank that's coming off of there. You know, where it's a little bit marshy and muddy. Yeah, nice looking there. The blue's nice. Probably wish I had a little more blue over in here from the water, but it's okay. So I'm just blending in some of this here. You know, if you like these little sprigs of mud, then you can add some more of those. Sometimes it's fun to let that brush just kind of take its own, oop, I got a little dark there, its own little movement there. Same thing here. You know, maybe we pull this out a little bit and pick up a few more here with some little more contrast. Again, just going back and looking and seeing what's up. So you're pretty close to being done there. You know, it's going to dry lighter. I'm going to get a little darker in here. Another technique I think I may have shown in some previous demos, where you can take, while it's still wet, you can take happens to be a hotel entry card. You can use a credit card, and I can kind of scratch in a few little highlights, you know, maybe where there was some lights, and you know, maybe there's some little rocks here, a mud with the lights hitting it. You know, they get kind of carried away with it sometimes, but that can just pick up. And again, you got to do this while the paint is wet, obviously. And you can see, kind of helps to create a little bit of light. You know, maybe that's too big there, but we'll let that go. But same thing here. And I can actually pull some of this down into here if I need to be. And if you don't like it, you can take your finger and kind of blend it back in if it got to be too out of control there. Scraping a little bit of light there. Maybe there's a reflection of light there. I think we're going to call that one done. It's fairly quick, fairly simple. You know, if I move my camera around a little bit different, you can get a little better angle of everything there, as you can see the painting. So if I remove the tape from this, I've got quite a bit of tape. You can kind of see the framing of it. Again, it's a very quick and fast technique. So this is drafting tape, but you can kind of see how it defines that edge there. Get rid of that tape, and then there's probably leave that one up there right now, because I'm working on about a 45-degree angle of a board here, and then we got to sign it, so it's going to dry lighter. I'm thinking my fingernail to scratch in some of that's a little bit awkward there, but I'm going to let that go. So there's that kind of rough, marshy, misty kind of a land there. The horizon going back through the sky. Could have got a little darker in the water back in here, maybe a little bit bluer. But it's not needed. Now I'm scratching in with my fingernail. I'm just scratching in a little bit of maybe where I'm going to try to go horizontal. Maybe where the water's breaking there a little bit. A little bit of movement. You would see that. I could go back with some paint and put across there, a little bit darker. But I think I'm going to stop here for this demonstration. I'm like you probably, or I have a tendency to want to keep working on it. Sometimes it's just fun to let this go as it is. So we'll mix a little bit of blue here, and I'll put my name on it at the moment here. Depending on where the matte goes. So sometimes I've put my name too low, and then when they matte it, it covers it up. So there's an example of marshlands. I hope you've enjoyed this painting here. It's been a pleasure to do it, and I'll see you next time.